Michael Gray Griffith, you have three young men with you who are about to go on an extraordinary journey of their own, but beyond that, take the audience to whom they're performing on a journey. What is happening and when? Tell us about it.
So it's on at the Alex Theatre on the 18th to the 21st, and then it's at Colac in the Red Rock Theatre in the 18th and 19th of October. So the play's actually got a date, even though it's never been on. Country Town's already taken it.
It's amazing. So this is for Victorians. This is for people in Victoria. But I
Yeah.
wanted to talk to you. I'll just put it in context because I firmly believe, and I'll say it right up front, this is a play for the world. But what we need after the Australian premiere is we need it to tour New Zealand. And you are going to explain why it's so important. But I'm going to begin with this quote from you. You say in the advertising material, if we treat our young males as though there is something wrong with them and offer them only shame, what do you think will happen to their souls? So, why do you use that quote in the promotional material, and what is the play about, Michael?
Well, I've got that from interviewing young men for the last 3 years, and a lot of straight young men, if that's the term we can use now, do feel sort of disenfranchised and unwanted by society to a degree. They don't feel like they have a voice. If they speak up their concerns, they seem to be called rednecks or something like that. And so we just thought we'd lose the diversity quotas and just do a play about young men. And just, I think both our societies, New Zealand, Australia, all societies actually should really value their young men. And I wanted to try do a play that didn't put other demographics down, but allowed people to see how beautiful men are, and using it through the story of these three young men and how they interact in a life and death situation. And that's what we're learning. The beauty of the masculinity isn't coming out in the big monologues, but it's more coming out in the small actions they do when they're just helping each other out. It's been profoundly beautiful watching it. It's even reminding to me how gorgeous men are. It sounds very gay, but it's actually not. It's actually been quite overwhelmingly moving.
And there was another wonderful piece. You said, perhaps I was just going to say, let's go to our actors, but there was another wonderful little piece in the promotional material, Michael, where you said, actually, men have something that has always stood the test of time. It's a brotherhood. It's being there for one another. It's something I remember seeing in my father's letters from the war when he was in the war, and how one of their own was shot. They didn't even care they were being strafed by German planes. They just stopped and buried their cobber. And that is what's going when we are putting men down like this. That is being lost, isn't it?
I don't know if it's been lost amongst men. I think society has lost the ability to see how lucky they are to have healthy men. And I mean, not all men are, we have jails full of criminals and stuff. It's not perfect. But I think the good majority of men are great. And I saw that recently when a car broke down in front of us, or a small truck. And I got out to help push it. And by the time I got there, 4 or 5 other men were pushing it. We never met each other before. We never asked for any awards. We never posted on Instagram, oh, look, I helped to go over the truck. We just did it. And then we just got on with our lives. And this happens every single day in society. And there's beautiful things like that I think. And a lot of men, these boys, well, young men really, they're going to breed the new society. And they're going to be an example for what a man should be to their sons, if they have sons. I learned about being a man through interactions with other men rather than in textbooks.
So let's go into that shame, because it's actually within the dialogue. Joshua, was it you in the piece who talks about being stood up at school? Your character actually talks about being stood up at school and asked to feel ashamed for prior generations of men. Was that your character?
Yeah, that's correct. It's both Jack and I, our characters were at a school where, yeah, all the boys are told to stand up and apologize to the girls for all the things that men have done in history to women, which is, bit of a stark image to be given. Yeah.
Well, I've now realized something about you, Joshua. You're the master of understatement. It's a bit of a stark image. It was deeply shocking to me as a woman. I could not believe they are doing that in schools. I know there are crazy things happening in schools, but to ask a new generation of men to feel ashamed for what's gone before when there was nothing to even feel ashamed about either. Let's go through each of you now and just tell me why you wanted to be part of Michael's play. What was it in the writing? Yes, let's begin with you, Odysseus. Just say your name first of all.
Yes, I'm first. I'm Odysseus. Hello. Why I want to do this play, I think, obviously, much to what he's said, it gives a voice to cis men who have been kind of disenfranchised over the last couple of years, and it raises a lot of good points, like what Josh is saying. I wanted to butt in there and say it, but there's this new sort of agenda appearing within like the education system where you see like that young people who are otherwise completely innocent are being slapped with the responsibility and blame of of crimes from generations past. And I've even been subject to that in my school. We had teachers standing in front of entire cohorts from year 9 to 12 and calling everyone a rapist, and
What?
everyone. Yeah, it was abysmal, and all the lads I know, everyone would just sit there and look at each other and go, what did I do? What?
Was this a female teacher at an all-boys school, Odysseus?
Yes.
And what happened when you all went home to your families and said this ludicrously out of touch woman was doing this? What did your families say?
All the parents were pissed. They were not happy because no one wants to hear, a stranger call your kid some completely vulgar term that's unjust and wrong,
It's quite mentally deranged, actually. It's very unhealthy. Did anything get done? Did she get sacked? I mean, when I was at school, a woman like that would have been sacked.
I can't speak to that. I don't think she got the sack. She may have gotten a talking to, but that was behind closed doors, For all I know, nothing happened, Maybe she was in the right all along.
When she's not in the right, and I hate that term cis males. As a female, I hate it. I don't even know exactly what it means. Let's just stop it. You're a male and you're a heterosexual male, which is very cool and what we need. But just getting back to it, take me back to that moment when you heard that. Can you still remember what you felt? I mean, you said you were thinking this is wrong, but was it something more? Did you feel shame? Did you start to take on shame?
I suppose, yeah, in the most minor of fashions, but then it was overridden by fury, like anger, because I knew that I'd done nothing wrong, and I wanted to sit there and say, like, you've got no right to call me that. I'm innocent. I don't believe in any of the things these bad people are doing. Why should I be blamed for their actions? So for a second, and that's what they were putting on you. It was shame, like you should feel responsible. You did this. And for a second, you would kind of adopt that responsibility. But then quickly, you would be angry because of this goddamn injustice.
And that is what our real men used to be. It's like, this is nonsense. I'm not putting up with it. That's a real man's response. I'm so glad to hear that, because somebody was saying to me the other day, shame, Odysseus, is the lowest vibration at which humans can sort of, the human system can operate, or a society can operate. We have no space for shaming our men. Thank you for your honesty there. Let's go through the lineup, yes, and just say your name and you're a Kiwi originally.
I am, yes. I'm Josh. I'm from Auckland, New Zealand, born and bred. Yeah, moved to Australia this year. Sorry.
This year, and my question was, what brought you to Michael? What made you want to be part of this, Josh?
When I read the script, I thought that these conversations are so important to have, and there are so few stories that challenge the audience in this way, and are allowed to have a voice and to just say what they want to say and need to say in order to get people thinking. because that's the job of art, is to hold up a mirror, no matter how cracked or sharp it may be, and say, hey, can you see what's going on here? If you can't, you can at least talk about it to someone next to you. I think that's such a key aspect of why I wanted to do this piece. Yeah, to be a part of that, and to see what the reaction will be as well.
And how was your schooling here in New Zealand, where schools are now horrifically woke, horrifically propagandized?
Yeah, I think that the school system very much has that element of the agenda of because I think Australia and New Zealand both also have this through line of colonial guilt of, you know, your race of men did this thing in the past, and so your race is to blame, whether it be to Maori or to Aboriginal Indigenous people. I think that's definitely a thing as well. But yeah, my schooling was pretty upmarket's the wrong phrase, but my schooling was pretty okay. I went to a very small primary school of 100 kids, very, very classic New Zealand primary school. I then went to Bucklands Beach Intermediate and then Maclean's College, which are, pretty good.
Were you subject to anything like Odysseus was, in any kind of shame talk?
Not in the same sense of being, called a rapist or anything.
How is it for you as a man now? Say on the dating scene, does this whole sort of diatribe that's been put out, really actually from the World Economic Forum, there is a deeper discussion to be had here, but it's a way of breaking down our men, and that goes on to breaking down our families, that goes on to breaking down our societies, and that goes right through to the Marxist sort of agenda that they have. So there's a much darker undertone to all that they're doing. But as a man now, Josh, does it affect you in the way you feel you can relate to women?
So speaking personally for myself, I'm very fortunate that I met a wonderful woman almost 3 years ago. When we're doing very well. We moved here together to pursue our careers in Australia. But prior to that, through a pandemic and through dating apps, it was such a slog, such a horrendous process. I'm quite a sensitive man, and that in itself evokes such a visceral image, because it's such a rejected thing to be. I'm a sensitive man. In New Zealand, being a sensitive man is such a hard thing to be, and I think that I found that through most interactions, for sure. But yeah, and yeah, through pandemics and through dating apps, I found it very difficult, as you say, to communicate to women, to talk to them. Yeah, it was a tough time, but not. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend I had a horrible time. It was just, dating apps are also, the thing about that is they're designed to keep men lonely. They are designed with their algorithm to keep men desperate and lonely for as long as possible, so that they stay on the app. Whereas for women, it's the reverse. That is how they are designed, and that's not a coincidence either.
Can you explain that a bit more? We've slightly gone off the play, but I'm intrigued by that. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I have personally used several of the dating apps myself during pandemics and all that, just as a means to pass time and to it was a bit of fun as well, just to have a chat, and to try and meet someone, of course. But they are algorithmically designed to keep men on the app as long as possible. And there are numerous studies and numerous videos, whatever you want to go into to look into to see this, but it has been proven that they are designed to do that.
You mean it's sort of it's playing that part of the brain. There might be a better one. There might be a better one. There might be a better one.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So it becomes an addiction.
Correct. Yeah, even like the paywall, you can pay to see who's liked you, who's swiped on you. You can pay extra money, and they limit the number of swipes you can do. There's so many tactics that these apps use to keep men desperate and looking. It's a whole thing. And I experienced all of it.
Thank you so much for your honesty. There'll be a lot of young men who might have a bit of a wake up moment watching that.
Yeah. And again, my disclaimer is, I would never recommend these apps to any man. I think they're a horrible time for your mental health, and they were pretty bad for me. But that's where I met my partner now, and we've been together almost 3 years, and it's been wonderful. And it's sometimes it works out, but it's yeah.
It's
Never
a little bit
recommend.
like a casino, isn't it? I would never
Truly.
go there because most of the time I think I'd be losing money. There might be one time I win. It sounds like you won the lottery. It sounds like you got lucky, Josh.
I certainly did. Yeah, I'm
But
very,
that
very, very grateful for that.
that raises, Tom, if we can go to you, that raises an issue that my feeling very strongly is that society has been so broken down by these agendas and this desire to stop our men being strong, healthy, virulent men, virile men, not virulent, that often I look at it and think there are a million ways they're trying to break down our males. Do you ever feel that, Tom? Do you ever have that sense? There are so many traps for young men now.
I only take note of like where the fallout kind of leads to. Like the most recent example has been like the Andrew Tate thing that happened. That's kind of the reaction that can happen when disenfranchised men just don't really have anywhere to go, and there's no space for vulnerability, and there's no space for open conversation about how they feel. So they just get kind of funneled into a place for just their worst instincts.
So just
like,
explain that for people who don't know what you're referring to with Andrew Tate.
well, the Andrew Tate thing was, I mean, it's been a
'Cause
while
he-
since- you might need to edit this. Yeah, you might need to edit around this because I didn't do much research on the Andrew Tate thing, but
Well, so
Yeah.
he's essentially he calls himself an alpha male influencer.
But he's been involved with pornography, hasn't he? In the past?
Child trafficking, I believe, something along that line.
I was talking about the message he was kind of preaching about how men should act and how men should carry themselves in this world, and it was a very aggressive way to carry yourself, and it's that aggression that men are not really equipped to deal with. And so the main question of this play is what happens when when men are only fed shame and silence. They get frustrated, and stuff like that can happen. So I think the reason why I wanted to do this play is because it's gotten to a point where it needs to be said that we need to be gentle and kind and tread carefully with men, because more often than not, they're just not really equipped to deal with life in any other way than to get angry. And if the only thing we can reinforce men with is their access to anger, then they're doomed.
Gosh, tell me more of that. What's your background to understand that, Tom? That's a really profound statement. What was your childhood like at school? What was it? How did you feel as a young man growing up?
Well, my schooling experience was fine. I finished school in about 2015, and that was kind of like before this, like the woke kind of boom happened. So I don't really have any like horror stories of being put on stage and telling women I'm sorry. But yeah, I just think in my journey with learning to act and to be an actor, the number one thing that was told to me is like you got to be available. You got to be emotionally there and present in whatever shape it takes. And it was a lot of roadblocks that I would get angry about, but and I was like, okay, well, why is my number one go-to reaction to get angry? It's like, oh, well, because that's all I've kind of been taught how to do, and that's the case for a lot of men.
This is so revealing. It's so intelligent, Michael. How did you find these three wonderful, intelligent, brave, men willing to be vulnerable and strong at the same time. I mean, this is what I think every good woman is actually longing for, to get back to this balance. Just let's go through back along the line. I'll come back to Michael on that question. But Tom, in rehearsing for this play and reading it and immersing yourself in this character, do you feel you've been learning a lot about yourself?
I think that's one of the gifts of acting, is you get to explore different sides of yourself that don't often get shown. So yeah, this has been really, it's been a great challenge. We're doing theater in the round, so like people are going to be seated all around us. So like, how do we deal with that challenge? Just on a technical level, but also emotionally. Yeah, it's been great to just be in this space and explore it, instead of just doing the typical male thing of like, oh no, it's fine, it's fine.
Well, what's your character dealing with? Is he dealing with that anger you talked about earlier? Is he angry initially when they're out at sea, and the things could just be dealt with that surface level of anger? How's your character dealing with it? Tell us about Isaac, your character.
Well, not to spoil that much, but we wake up and my grandfather is missing. So he's in shock and he's concerned. And yeah, I guess you could say one of the ways that he gets it out is to get angry first, and then as the play goes along, there's more for him to do and more for him to explore.
How well do you know these other two characters at the beginning? You're all in a boat together, aren't you?
Yeah, our characters grew up on the same street. We go to different schools, but we're on the same street.
Right.
So there's that familiarity there.
Let's go back to you, Josh. What have you been exploring as you're opening up this character you're playing?
Yeah. So I also had the pleasure of talking to the real Connor. So my character is based on the experiences of a real person, which for an actor is such a treasure trove of information. And I had a long phone call with my real person, my character. And so his experience is very, very difficult. And it's very different to what my experience was, through a pandemic and through all the things that happened. And his experience was just so tough and tumultuous and agonizing, really. Connor has heart issues, a heart problem, and it was caused through having the COVID vaccine. And so this is something you don't hear often about, these people who actually had really, really adverse reactions to the jab. And so it brings that story to light as well. Yeah, and so for me as an actor, it's my job to bring Connor's story and tell it as truthfully as I can, for his sake.
Is that easy? Is it easy for you to access that sort of unknown territory, or do you have to really struggle with it?
It's not. Yeah, it's not easy. I think because it is very different to what I've gone through, and I obviously I myself don't have heart disease and things like that. But it's those things that you, as an actor, you can think about how to give that across physically and vocally and with your movement. And so in my conversations with Connor, I said to him, hey, in order to portray, this version of you authentically, how should I move? How should I sound? How do you breathe? What's the experience like? And so he gave me wonderful descriptions of, a grand piano on his chest whenever he'd lie down.
Oof.
Such evocative pain that he deals with, on a daily basis. Connor, he said to me that before any sort of big conversation or as he's speaking, it feels like he's always had like a kilometer run, almost at all times. And that's the experience I should try and bring across physically, that I've almost always just been for a run. Yeah.
You three are so articulate. Let's ignore the fourth person sitting just behind your shoulder, Josh. Do you get good help from the director? Do you get great help to access your characters from the director? You can say anything you like.
I think that through the audition process and through casting us and through meeting us, Michael has had great faith in us that we can do our thing. And I think that he's seen that we have the tools to make it what we need to make it. He certainly, knows when to just sort of, oh, do this thing this way, do thing that way, just to course correct when needed. But I think that he knows that we're doing all right. So
I imagine Michael would be that, Odysseus. I imagine Michael would very much honor the artist in you, because that's been my experience of the way he operates in life. Is that your experience as you unpack your character? Tell us about what you're going through.
Yeah, no, he's been great to work with. Real workshopping vibe. So yeah, it's been really good to workshop the play with Michael, and the scenes and the moments here and there, and we can confer on what's happening and then agree on where it should go next. And then just a lovely process of experimenting with the lines. With me and Jack, Jack is similar to Isaac, I feel, in the beginning, though a bit more of a aggravator in some sense. He panics and resorts to anger and pointing fingers. But then quickly, which I deeply resonate with the character, quickly he starts to see the glass half full, so to speak. He embraces sort of a more stoic mindset where he starts to not think about things that he can't control in the situation, and he starts to look at what he can do and how he can help Connor and help the boys get out of this situation, which is something I deeply resonate with. It's something I've often done in times of crisis. I think a lot of guys start to do that when stuff hits the fan. You start to look at the facts and you go, all right, what am I going to do next? You don't sit there and what is it? I think it was Aldous Huxley who said something along the lines of, you don't cry in the mud. What is it? No, okay. I'm forgetting that quote. It would have sounded really nice if I remembered an Aldous Huxley quote.
I haven't heard an Aldous Huxley
don't.
quote along those lines. I wish you could
Is
remember.
at the start of A Brave New World. I read it recently. Anyway,
Brilliant.
basically, you don't cry in the mud, you dance in the rain.
Yes. And that captures it. It's a really beautiful encapsulation. But the way in which you all talk about your characters, I can see potentially, Odysseus, that you could be quite different over those 4 nights. Do you think the 3 of you will be developing something that will evolve even over the 4 nights you're playing in the theatre?
I'd say personally, I think so. I'm not going to try and
Preempt it. Yeah.
This rehearsal process has been just a process of me exploring different ways of feeling and navigating the moment. And there are some days where I'll hit it and it was like, oh, that's really nice. There are other days where it's like, okay, I don't like how I said that line. I don't think it was real. And I do want to, I want to see if I can explore it every night in a natural way, but still hit the marks. That's my job. I got to figure that out. That's that's why I'm here. But
your character is called Jack. Does he live with you when you're not in rehearsal? Are you taking him home and talking to him at night? Are you imagining him there with you? Do you see him a lot around you? Is that how it is?
Yeah.
I think this is to the credit of Michael and his casting, is that he's casted 3 guys that just, it's almost like he wrote the roles for us. It feels very natural to say Isaac's lines, and we've talked about how natural it feels for you guys to say your lines.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that, Tom. I've had a real sense, even the theatre opening up, Michael, that there's some real blessing over this play, and it's going to go off. Just let's get back to her director, Mr. Director.
I want to say he's correct. When they turned up, when these 2 came in, I just thought, oh, that's them. I thought that's the characters. And then when Tom turned up, he started to read, And we had a whole page, but he'd only done 2 lines. I said, roll's yours. And he's like, what? I said, roll's yours, mate. Because I was like looking at Isaac. And so to me now, they're taking it, like I said, guiding it. But this is a very ancient way of telling stories. And they passionately want to tell the story. And so we're trying to do everything that it works. We give them hopefully we get an audience, and the boat's been made. It should be ready in the next few days. And it's been really beautiful. And what's really interesting is like, Tom will go, I wouldn't say that line. So we give the line to Connor, and Connor goes, yeah, that's my line. And it's just how they're finding it through. And the other beautiful thing is finding the humor. And then they're teaching me words that's in their vernacular that I'm not going to mention here. So I'm learning all these words. But the real lesson I'm learning is every man is born into different circumstances. Your grandfather was born into different circumstances than your father. Your son born into different circumstances again. And so the only group this play actually tackles is the generations of men before them that call this generation soft cocks. This is another reason I wrote it, is they say, oh, they've got no respect for us, they're lazy, they're stupid even, really, there's all these bad terms that's used by other generations. And I think the opposite is the fact. And that's what I'm learning. So I'm so proud. It's quite an honor to be here watching them. And I'm hoping that I think the men that will come will be probably more profoundly affected from the stories of these young actors than maybe other groups. They're the sons. Every character is literally the son of an angry father or an angry grandfather, and they're hiding that anger, and so it's amazing. It's a bit stressful, a little bit stressed, but it does feel like there's a blessing over it. The boat's been built for free. This artist is in love with the play and likes our work, so that's incredible, because I didn't know how the hell I was going to build a boat. So we've almost finished. This is the boat. This is the front. It's called Eve, based on the great poem by Rudyard Kipling. So basically, this is the first part of the boat. There'll be a gap here, and then there'll be the stern, which is yet to be made. And so the stern is here, and that is there, and this gap between is the stage, and there'll be either rope or wood down here. Probably if anyone's got any big fat marine rope, I'm quite happy to pay you for it, down here. And so that'll be the boat. And then here's a stage for the boys. It actually works as a stage as well. And the poem called Eve, based on Rudyard Kipling's almost forgotten poem of what it was in his era to be a man. So let's go to the boat. Millsy.
Yeah, bro.
Why are you building this boat?
Because I love you. You're the absolute best.
That was paid, $50. But yeah, so this is it. So we're working all day, and Mills has done an incredible job. And even though this boat will never touch any water, we are hoping that it's just about to start an epic journey as it heads off into our society in little groups of audiences and tries to remind people just how beautiful men are. And the theatre too. The theatre is giving us rehearsal space. The theatre, they once they read the play, they're fathers. They have sons, and they said, "Yep, we're racing it through." And so here's where we are. So to me, I'm hoping that this little boat is going to start an epic journey, even though it'll never touch water, and go to town or city in city and try to remind people just how lucky they are to have men in their lives and how beautiful men can be. The other thing what's interesting too, and this is really important, there's a book called Lord of the Flies, which basically implies that you leave men alone without authority figures and they'll just rip each other to shreds. And the older I get, the more I think, well, that's bullshit. And I actually think men actually work as brothers, like we said, where the men push the truck. I think they do that because they're clever enough to know we have more to gain by working together. And so this play actually challenges that. And the beautiful thing that's happening is, as Tom said, yes, they have that anger, and there are flashpoints, but then they realize if we go to fists and just anger, we're all dead. It's not going to work. They have to look after their Connor, and so they start being kind. They start looking after each other. They start working together, and that's the beauty of it. And they become brothers, even though they're close. They're becoming brothers on there. As the play progresses, the conversation starts to flow, the awkwardness goes, and you're really feeling that you're a spectator to three young men talking to something that most people our age never get a window in. And it's quite it's funny, but it's also quite stilling when you see how they react to each other and the issues that they're facing and stuff like this. So yeah, it's lovely. I feel really blessed at the moment. So I'm just soaking up every moment. I'm going to give it back to the boys.
Well, just stay with me for a moment, because, Michael, if the quality of the answers from these three young actors reflects the quality of their acting itself, I mean, the answers just earlier were really extraordinary. They were brave, and they don't even know me. And you gave, as young men, it takes I've always thought it takes a real strength in a male to be really vulnerable. Only a strong man can be that. A weak, cowardly man won't. He'll cover it up and pretend. So already the qualities of you are shining through. Michael, I would love to put out a call if somebody would fund this, either in New Zealand or Australia, to do a tour across the Tasman or to do a tour around Australia. Can you contact either Michael or me, liz.gunn@freenz.org, or Michael, you give an address, if there was someone willing to fund it?
cafelockdown@gmail.com, send anything there. I think it'd be great. I actually think, because they're all heroic characters in this, and I do feel that, like, I grew up in Star Wars. Star Wars came out when I was a young boy. I went to see it when it was first released. And every single boy I knew had Luke Skywalker on his wall because he was a symbol of something good. And I do feel that the last few years, maybe we're missing heroic characters, or
Heroic men.
not just like shoot 'em up heroic characters, but actually heroic characters that are willing to stand for something and have something they value more than just money and power and stuff like this. And these three young men on this boat, what they really care for is each other. They really care for each other. And that's the beautiful thing. So the other thing I get moved by is I'm hoping we get an audience, because I'm the first one privy to some incredibly beautiful moments of really positive masculine moments, and I'm the only one to see it. And so I'm really looking forward to see how audiences react, because I think the guys are incredible.
Elaborate on that. Give us an example of one that's really moved.
All right, there's as Connor gets sicker, they have to, because what happens first in the play, without giving it away, first you think this is just basically a survival play. The boat's not in a good way. They've got to fix these issues. But then as time progresses, there's no search planes, there's no boats. And so the theory is that this is where it moves to the soul thing. Are these the souls of the boys drifting off because they feel unwanted by society? And one of the young guys suggests that maybe they're being drifted to somewhere where they could be wanted. And then one of them is going to risk a perilous journey swimming back to the shore, not to get back to us, but to get medical help for his mate.
Oh, wow.
And so he's going to risk his life for his mate. And I think all through history, as you said with your father, People Under Fire, I think it's really hitting home that one of the most precious things men have had all through history is each other.
Yes. And inordinate courage. But within that, there was a line, Michael, you just said, so they are feeling they want to get back to society, but they're not sure that the society wants them back.
Yeah, that's what the play does. The one of the characters starts theorizing or starts suggesting that they don't go back. There's nothing there for them, and there's nothing out here, but maybe there is. Maybe, and that becomes part of the play, and that's when the play holds up a mirror to society, to the audience, to say, well, if you're going to treat your young men with shame or just make them feel like they're not valued, why should what's going to happen to their souls? And I've said this because when I'm interviewing people now, when I do meet young people, I ask them, do you feel that your country values you? And this is girls and boys. And they just straight away, they don't even think about it, they go, no. And I'm thinking this is maybe one of the deep fundamental problems of our society is that our young people don't feel honored. Like, oh my God, we're so lucky to have you. And instead, they've been left with a massive debt from the previous generation. They can't afford houses. There's no good jobs. It's all casual jobs. And they cop the blame for literally everything. They're told like they're idiots and where's your respect? But what have we done to earn their respect? So I think these are questions that it raises. The play doesn't preach. It doesn't preach. It just poses questions through the dialogue of these men. And that's what I think theatre should do. It's exactly what Joshua said. It's theatre shouldn't preach. That's for a priest. It should just pose questions that you take away with you, and at the same time be entertaining. There's some funny moments that we can't talk about that are just absolutely effing hilarious, and yeah, there's funny moments, there's thrilling moments, there's a mystery because I got to figure out why they are. So the play itself is entertaining on one level, but at the same time too, it does pose these great questions to the audience. And what I'm hoping is that it starts a conversation with people going, yeah, look, we've got to rethink how we treat our young men and start making them feel wanted and valued, and that we are blessed as a society to have them.
Honestly, Michael, the way you're all talking, I've been offered a fare over to Melbourne by a supporter who is in Australia of the work that I do. I'm thinking I book the fare for the play with the players from
that'd
the.
be great. We'd be honoured to have you.
I want to be there. So the dates again, just tell us the dates.
The 18th to the 21st at the Alex Theatre in St Kilda, and I'm honoured to be here as well. And then I think the 18th and 19th of October. It's on at Colac in the Red Rock Regional Theatre. And we have one of the most incredible things when I put it out, I didn't think I'd find a theatre, and I did. And I didn't think I'd find actors. I thought they'd be a bit scared, in case of retribution from, I don't know, I just thought, it's a controversial play, even though it doesn't attack any other demographics. And we had one young man flew in from South Australia to audition, and he's got a group that's putting it up in South Australia now. And we had another young Australian actor who's been living in Canada for 2 years, and he was going to fly back to audition. Not to get the part, just to audition. And so I do think that maybe this play might just have found a niche or a hunger in the community. And hopefully this play might kickstart that conversation. So
I think we'll end with the actors. Again, back to you, Odysseus. I wanted to talk to you about what you think the audience for this play is. Is it a young man as young as Josh was, at 9, or as you were at 9 when you were being put down by that teacher? Is it that age, or does it need to be a bit older? What would you say?
I'd say this play is for everyone. Every single human being that has listened to the social commentary over the last couple of years, the dialogue. People who are a bit younger, we might need to cater our performance towards,
17 up.
17 up. Maybe 16 up. There's sweet 16s, they got it too. But they swear.
They got gutter mouth.
Yeah.
But I think let's deal with that language thing just briefly. Back to you, Michael, on the language. What do you say about that?
Well, there's swearing in the play, but I said to all of them, the swearing is up to you because they're away from their mothers, they're away from their fathers, and so they're going to speak in natural voices. But what's really interesting is they're watching them, they know the swearing's up to them, and they'll take the swearing out at one point. And I thought, that's very respectful, but then they stick it back in the next sentence. And they're teaching me different swear words. But the beautiful thing about the swear words, and some people will get offended, but what I love is how affectionate it is. So when they call each other these names, you would think the society would think, oh, they're going to get offended. But it's a form of love, which is men have done for centuries.
Exactly.
I think it might
Yeah.
even be a way that men show they're bonded, that they can use words that should offend them and they're not offended. And that's a display of brotherhood. So it's really lovely, very funny. And we're not even doing blocking much because the stage is so small, being the boat, but they're naturally finding where they want to be. So they're not puppets at all. These are three artists, really strong artists, actually trying to put this together and find out. I'm just a guide. I just go, oh, look, maybe that could be here, but I'm definitely not here with a whip or anything going, learn your lines. That might happen next week, but
But very much in the piece that I saw, where you all had the scripts in front of you, but your acting was so natural. You were really owning it.
yeah, and that was only the second day or first day of rehearsal, so they'd never done that. So what we're seeing now leaves that for dead. It's extraordinary.
And I would argue, Odysseus, that there could still be younger men coming into this play, because look at the schools. I mean, we've got a vice president in America running on the fact that he introduced tampons for boys into boys' bathrooms in America. The world is so insane. That's that guy.
I missed that memo.
Yeah, it's so upside down. So
I'm good. I'm good. I don't need any. I'm good. Yeah.
a few swear words, but a 9-year-old seeing three men who are bonding like this, who are looking out for each other, that is the much deeper layer to this. So yeah, if I had a 9-year-old, I wouldn't be holding back for the language. But what do you feel that, say, a father and son might get out of this, Odysseus? And then we'll move on to Josh.
I think that a father might be illuminated to what's going upstairs in his son's mind, given today's current climate. And I think there would be a newfound respect and tolerance between them for having both grown up in completely different generations. And we're all products of our generation, and that's the thing, is so often, like, you'll hear older blokes calling the younger generation, oh, they don't know what they're on about, everyone's weak these days, and it's that mentality that's sowing unnecessary division between generations that are otherwise kind of losing a general identity of what masculinity truly is. And that's why people like Andrew Tate turn up, because what is masculinity? They're not teaching it in schools, they're actually shunning it nowadays. So we got to figure it out somehow. I think that this play would really strengthen the bond between a father and a son and deepen the understanding between them and what they're both going through.
Even grandfathers, I think, grandfathers and grandsons, they could even build a bridge.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
That's an exquisite answer. What is masculinity? What would you say it is?
Me? Oh, ouch. Great question.
You handed it to me.
Masculinity is the opposite to femininity.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So, in other words, what's femininity? Liz Gunn?
I know exactly what it is, and I know exactly what you mean. so I
Illuminate
love
us, will you?
it. Ah,
That's it. Look, it's short term. It's a spoiler for the
Beautiful.
play. So
absolutely
you just gotta come through and you'll
beautiful.
figure it out. You'll realize what masculinity is.
I absolutely have to come. I love the way you give your answers. Josh, for you, what do you think the audience, could it also be the grandmothers and the mothers? Can it be a way to reach into and understand our sons better, this play?
Yes, absolutely. I think that, I think anyone aged 13 and above should see this show. Because again, it will get those conversations going. Even if a mum brings her daughter to this show and they see what we're doing, they'll talk about it.
Yes.
They'll go home and talk to the husband or the dad about it. They'll have those conversations that I think should be had. Dad, how real was that, what they were saying? And then, he might say whatever. And then that just informs people, regardless of what you take away or how you react to a piece like this. It's just about saying something and talking about anything, because it's you go, people are just craned their necks looking at screens now. You got to just speak to each other for God's sake.
It would
Yeah.
open up those conversations. But do you know, I had not thought about that. If you took along a young woman at the
Yeah.
stage where she's starting to look at boys, and
Yeah.
what kind of a boy would I like to go out with? And, to encourage a very feminine female child to go out with a very masculine boy child, that would be great. That's how
Again,
we get
exactly.
our
And
society built up again, because they're
exactly.
breaking that down. They are breaking that down on purpose. They're
Exactly.
absolutely trying to crack it. Mm,
Yeah, I agree. Hmm.
mm. Tom, I might end with you. You had a beautiful quote in here. You said, "I'm excited for people to see this show. I think there's a dialogue to be had around it, one that I hope will bring people together." We've sort of dealt with that with Josh. And then you say, "I want everybody to come to see the show, to see themselves in these young men that we're playing." Elaborate on that.
Yeah, well, I think that's the best thing about theater is that it is for everybody, and I would be honored if people from all different walks of life would give this show a chance. And yeah, I think mothers and sons, fathers and daughters, and fathers and sons, I think, and any combination in between, I think they would all benefit from seeing this play, and hopefully that can incite open and honest conversations, so that there's actual growth to be had.
Absolutely. And say, I love the quality of courage. And I like to think of myself as a courageous woman. I'm going to see a courageous character up on that screen. So as a woman, I'm going to relate. It's not just about males relating to you characters. It's all of us as humans, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, theater is always a place where you can learn something about yourself, and however it applies to you. Just because it's a story about young men doesn't mean that it is necessarily for young men. Although if that just what happens, then great. But yeah, it's not limited to that.
Would you be free, all three of you, to take this forward if we can get some funding to take a national or international tour on this one? Would you be free, Tom?
Hell yeah.
What about you, Josh?
I mean, hey, if it means I get to go home to New Zealand, I'm all for it. Let's go.
I'm really serious. I want some funders to contact. And what about you, Odysseus? Would you have the time?
I'm counting on it. Yeah, I'd look forward to it.
And maybe a film in the long term, Michael. What's that?
Can I just say something about masculinity that these three young guys have taught me? And it's in some of the moments where they could explode, and you're watching it, and they have, as young men, they have this immense power, this strength where they can break and destroy things. And yet they funnel that power into protecting and nurturing. And I think that's what masculinity is, good masculinity. They could go on a rampage and, like you say, a huge Maori can go out and destroy everything with all his strength. But instead they nurture, tend to a family, bring up their children, try to talk things out. And if needs be, they have the strength, but they use it well. And I think society benefits when the majority of men actually give a shit about their country and their society and their families. And we all benefit from that love.
I can't top that. It's a beautiful answer. Odysseus, did you want to say something there? Do you want to add something? What do you feel when you hear Michael wax lyrical like that? He's beautiful, isn't he?
Yeah, no, it is touching, and he's exactly right. It makes me kind of regret not giving my own answer earlier, but if I had one, it would have been along those lines. That's what masculinity is. It's or at least true masculinity. It's having that power and remaining reserved and moving forward accordingly and appropriately, not misusing that power you have, and it goes the same for femininity. You know, there's a different power on both sides. You know, my nan is a psychologist, and she studied Jung, and she loves talking about the masculine and the feminine id, and each side has its own unique qualities and traits that the other side might not have, and we are the yin to each other's yang. And that's what both of them come down to, is using those qualities for good and not letting them overcome you.
It's stunning, Odysseus. And as a woman, that's what I want to see in the man that I'm with. And he is like this, where he could absolutely defend me at the drop of a hat if he needed to, and be very, very strong and very powerful. But he has a great tenderness as well. And that is just so, that brings out the femininity in me, for which I will give you a definition in our next interview, just to keep you tantalized. Thank you all. It was really a delight to talk to all of you. I think I'll have to fly over, and many other of us. If any Kiwis want to join me, maybe we get a trip of Kiwis across to see this play. Let's put it out there. Yeah, that would be fun. And we will go out on what I absolutely loved, which was your rehearsal. I just want people to see how beautifully you all drop into your characters and listen to the magnificence of Michael's dialogue. Thank you all, and good luck with the show.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you very much.
A lack of proper preparations. Swear to learn from their desperate mistakes.
Yeah. You know, when he talks about the corporations, he's right. In my last job, you know, the ones that sacked me, they said they had a social media policy where they said if I post anything that anybody finds offensive anywhere, they can sack me. Well, they pay me a shit wage and they think they own my thoughts?
No, boys. They're just protecting their brand. Yeah, don't stress.
Well, I'm not their fucking brand. I'm an independent human being. I'm me.
You know what else I don't miss, Jack? The shame.
What? What, for being injured?
No. The shame for being a man. For being a straight man. For being what I am. A fucking Australian.
Yeah, that's what my granddad used to say. I've raised a family, I paid my taxes, and now I'm all of a sudden the bad guy. That's what he said.
Yeah, same with my dad. And yours. Become a man. The fuck are they talking about? What is a man? All I know about being a man is that they don't want men.
Okay, that's enough. Stop it now. Look at you. Fucking look at you. You're just getting yourself upset.
It's just everywhere, man. Toxic masculinity. Fuck you too. What do you think they'll do? What do you do? Oh, fuck. What do you think they'll do if we called women toxic or any other demographic? But men, knock yourself out. They even got a ministry now for changing men's behavior.
Yeah, that's true. When I was young, my mum used to brag to her friends about how she was teaching me how to not be a rapist.
Fuck off.
She did. I was only 9. I didn't even know what sex was.
Face it, Jack. As far as society is concerned, our time is over. So even if they hadn't poisoned my heart, I'm not sure if I want to go back.
Yeah, well, suck it up. There's nowhere else to go.
Well, then where's the search parties, mate? The fucking planes, the boats, anything.
Where do you think? Like Isaac said, it's a huge sky and a big ocean. And they don't know what direction we took. They probably think we sank close to shore or some shit.
Okay, you're just making that up.
And you're not.
They don't want us anymore. And they especially don't want me.
Oh, stop playing the victim.
Fuck you! I am the victim. You want to know something else? I don't want them either. If they want to TikTok dance their way to wherever they're fucking going, let them. But I want out.
Okay. Rule 1, Isaac, if you ever want to get lost at sea with me again, don't bring this prick, this conspiracy theorist.
Our last year of school, they made us boys stand up and apologise to every single girl for all the things that men had done to women. You remember that, mate? You remember that? You were fucked off.
Yeah, they did the same in my school.
Yeah, but that wasn't society. That was our fucked up principle.
No. That was the education department. We hadn't done anything to women, mate.
By that time, I'd been on what? One date? We didn't even kiss. Shame, Jack. That's all this is. Shame. Shame and silence. And I'm sick of it. Yeah? Fucking sick of it.
Hit all your little boats at me, but trace their routes with your satellites. For if I choose, I will douse their lights and bury your men under my waves. Demand your royal commissions before your wakes. Accuse the wind, the currents, the weather stations, a lack of proper preparations. Swear to learn from their desperate mistakes.
If, by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and pick 'em up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son.